Welcome back, Year 2, to your second geography lesson for this half term. Now, before we make a start on this week's learning, we're just going to recap with our knowing more, remembering more, looking back to our learning last week on the different types of settlements. So question number 1 is asking you, are settlements, true or false, sorry, settlements are places where people live and work? I'll read that again. Settlements are places where people live and work. Question 2. Now, there will be more than one answer for this question, so you just need to say which letters are the correct answers. So which of these are types of settlements? A house, B, a village, C, a town, D, a bridge, E, a city. In question number 3, what is the largest type of settlement? So think about the different types of settlements there are. Which is the largest of those? You can pause the video so you can write your answers down, or you can discuss these with an adult. Right, welcome back. So we'll go through our answers. So question number 1, the answer is true. Settlements are places where people can live and work. Even people that live in a village may well have their own work or work within that village. So the answers for question 2, you should have B, a village, C, a town, and E, a city. And finally, what is the largest type of settlement? So out of those 3, the largest settlement is a city. So well done if you got those answers correct. So today we're going to be looking at the physical and human features of one of those types of settlements in more detail. So today we're going to be exploring the village. So your success criteria, so by the end of the lesson, you'll be able to describe what a village is, you'll be able to describe the human and physical features of a village, and explain the type of housing that might be found in villages and other settlements. So today on our knowledge organiser, we're going to focus particularly on these 2 areas, a village and a town, these 2 vocabulary. So we know that a village is a small group of houses in a country area. So key vocabulary that we already know, we've got the word village, settlement, and services. Words that we're going to look at today, so we'll do my turn, your turn. So my turn first, dispersed. My turn, rural. My turn, terrace. My turn, cottage. My turn, semi-detached. And finally, my turn, detached. So I'd like you to have a think. Can you describe in your own words what a village is? So thinking back to what we looked at last week and the definition that we've already had this morning, can you in your own words describe what a village is? You can write those down or again talk with an adult. Okay, so a village is the most basic form of a human settlement. It's a community that is made up of a small number of houses, and it's usually in a rural, which means country, area. And a village has a small number of services, okay, so you're not going to get the amount of services that you might see in a town or a city. So for example, you might have a small shop and a post office, and it may have a school and maybe some sort of bed and breakfast. And historically, so over many years, the people that actually live in the villages often work in the local area. So for example, they might farm some of the land around the village, or if they're near a coast, they might actually be involved in fishing around that village. So we've got an aerial photo of a village here, or well, some of you might think it's a village. Some of you might think if it's a town, so have a think which one you think it might be. What do you notice in particular about this settlement? So we're looking at this settlement here. So there's one there and there's some other bits around. You might notice there's different types of colours that you can see. Some are lighter grey, over here, some over here as well. So pause the video and have a think. What do you notice? Discuss that with someone around you or write some of your ideas down. Okay, welcome back. So you might have noticed that within that particular area photograph, that villages can be many different types of shapes. So they can be built around one central point. So if you go back to the previous image, you might see there was a big clump of houses and roads around a central area. Other times though, they might be built along a line. So if you look at this image at the bottom, the third one, you'll see there's all the village and the houses and the buildings are built along a line. And in other examples of a village, they're actually spread out, which another word for spread out is dispersed. So here, you'll notice this village is spread out. So you've got some buildings and homes here, over here, over here, over here. Okay, and you'll notice all the little grey sort of dots, they are all buildings. That is still a village, but they are spread out. So the only way to kind of connect them would be kind of lanes and fields, probably accessed by quite large vehicles like tractors or jeeps or Range Rovers. As I've already said, sometimes a village might be built along a line. So this village is built along this road here, and then there's very little in the surrounding areas. So it's all along this one line, and then when you go a bit further out, you won't have any more of the village. That's the village finished. Or you might have it built around a particular point. So you can see here, most of this area here is the village. So it's built around a particular area. So you've got some larger building and plots of land here, over here, and over here as well. But all the houses that are in that village are around the area. And there's, again, further out, you'll notice there's very little houses or buildings, and they're built because they're all built around this particular point. Now, if we think back to last week, can we remember what some of the physical features were of a village in particular? So hopefully you remembered that they had things like fields, trees, ponds, rivers and hills. And often, if you have the centre of a village, you will see that there's a lot of ponds, or there might be one main pond. You can see in this picture here, this is the kind of the main town bit, and then it's very near to the local church. Also, you'll have things like shops, houses, a village hall, and that's usually where events happen. A school, and it's usually a fairly small school, some sort of farm or farmland, and a mechanical garage, so a garage where they can fix their cars and get petrol. So in front of you, there's lots of different images of different types of houses and buildings. So if we look at the first one, so A, that particular building would be found in a village. If you notice, some of the stonework, the bricks that it's made from, is very old and they're quite traditional in style, okay? B is also a village. Again, you've got some old brickwork, and this is actually probably an even older building than the first one, and it's surrounded by fields, okay, if you can see along in the background. Have a look at the third one. Hopefully all of you identified that we might find these are flats, and they are found in a city. Where might we then find this type of building? Again, in a city, okay, because these are terraced houses because they are close together. All right, and you will see, again, when they're terraced, there's no break in the houses, okay? But there is a slight difference between this type of building here compared to the one we've just looked at. And that one also could be found in a village, but also I would say you might find it in a town as well. And this one is a semi-detached building because it's partially attached to the house next door. It's not completely, it doesn't stand by itself, it's not freestanding. So we call this one a semi-detached house. And we're going to go through each of those definitions now with you. Now, before we move on to that, we're going to talk a little bit about the different types of houses you will find in a village. Often they are larger and separate. So this first one is a good example of a detached house, because there's no houses that are connected to it whatsoever. And the reason that often they're larger and separate from other houses is because there is a lot more space, because fewer people live there, okay? It's a lot less populated than a city is. So we're going to match those, okay, which we've already done. So we're just going to talk about the different terminologies and what they mean. So when we talk about a detached house, that is a house that is not joined to another one. So we looked at maybe that example here, that this would be a detached house. Then a semi-detached house, which was a house joined to only one other house. Terraced house, a house that's joined to other houses on either side. A flat, which we know, we can see a lot of the flats outside our school, just opposite. So a flat is a home in a building with other homes on different floors. And a cottage, that is a great example in the second picture just there, is a very small house in the country. So you don't normally describe a cottage as quite quaint, okay? They tend to have very low ceilings, wooden beams, really old windows and doors, and you need to look after them. So again, you might think about this question, this challenge question, why would you find it in a village or in a city? Okay, so we've talked about why we might find it in a village or a city, especially particular houses like detached and cottages. So if we were to look at, again, these types of houses, just to remind us what they are. So the first one is a good example of a detached house. The second one is a cottage. The third is flats. The fourth is a terrace, and the fifth one is a semi-detached. So your task today is you are going to go away and identify for yourselves whether you would find that house in a village or in a city. So you need to look at the house, say first of all whether it would be found in a village or whether it would be found in a city. And then what do we call that type of housing? See if you can remember the different vocabulary that we've used to describe the different types of houses. Now, before we ask you to complete your activity, I want you to think about these questions. Why might someone want to live in a village? And then why might someone not want to live in a village? Because some people, really, that's their dream, to live in a small village in the middle of the countryside with a nice cottage. And other people, there'd be nothing worse for them to live in a village. They love the idea of living in a city. So what might be some of the reasons why? Well, if we have a think, you might want to live in a village if you want peace and quiet, because we know the difference between a village and a city. A city is very busy, it's the hustle and bustle and the cars and the trains and the aeroplanes, whereas a village might be a lot quieter. Often, if you look in villages, they are cheap housing. And also you get areas to walk in, okay? So you can go on lovely walks, maybe with your pets. You get to see other animals in their fields, and you get to explore the countryside. Now, someone might not want to live in a village because you have to often travel to go to large shops. So you wouldn't have your local Tesco's or Sainsbury's or Aldi or Lidl, okay? You'd have to go to a city or a town to be able to get a big shop like that, because you often only have a small little village shop and a post office. And also some people might not want to live in a village because if your job was in one of the towns or even a city, you would have to travel quite a long distance to be able to get there. So just to recap and review our knowledge from today, let's see if you can answer some of these questions and share them with an adult. So question 1, what does dispersed mean? Question 2, what type of landscape surrounds a village? Question 3, what type of housing does the photograph show? The photograph in the bottom screen. Is this type of housing likely to be found in a village or in a city? Right, well done year 2. So you can now go and complete your task, and as we say each week, if there are any questions, you can ask one of your teachers in your session, class novel session this afternoon. But good luck, and I look forward to seeing how well you can identify the different types of houses and where they can be found. Bye bye.